Archangel Chronicles II, Chapter 18, Flight by Raymond Collodi, copyright 2026, all rights reserved.
A voice was heard in Ramah.
Rachel weeping for her sons. Her arms are empty cradles, her tears outshine the dawn. No comfort can she gather, no word can still her moan. The mothers cry in Bethlehem, their tears watering the stones. But heaven remembers, though earth turns away. The angels keep vigil where children once lay. Though kings tremble and soldiers obey, heaven remembers what earth casts away.
Brigomarus. I wandered through the ruined streets as through the halls of the dead, my boots slick with soot and blood, my breath scraping inside my throat like sand. The smoke of Bethlehem clung to my skin long after the flames had died. Dawn had only begun to lift itself over the rooftops, a pale and feeble thing. It brought no comfort, only revelation and horror. The cries had fallen silent. That was the worst of it. A mother lay slumped beside a stone threshold. She was so young, barely more than a girl. Her body lay twisted as she had tried to shield her child, even with her final breath. A sword thrust had skewered her through the back, the tip erupting from her breast like a flower of gore. Her arms were empty now, lifeless. Beside her on the cobblestones lay a small swaddling cloth, streaked with drying blood. I knelt. For the first time in a soldier's lifetime, my hands trembled violently. The linen was still warm. A small smear, a thumb-sized shape, marked where a tiny face had once rested. I drew my long Celtic sword, the iron humming softly as though ashamed to feel daylight again. I wrapped it in the bloody swaddling cloth, binding weapon to wound, crime to consequence. The sword felt heavier than any I had ever carried. As I rose, a voice called behind me, "Kyrios, your orders?" My taxiarchos stood there, helm under his arm. His eyes were rimmed in red. He had seen the work as well as I. Behind him, a pair of soldiers pushed forward a shepherd, thin, afraid, and smelling of smoke. The taxiarchos cleared his throat. "A patrol returned, sir. They say a caravan left at dawn. It was camped outside the town, several miles away, headed toward the western hills." I stared at him dumbly. "A caravan?" The shepherd spoke in a hoarse whisper. "I saw a child with them, Kyrios. A strange one. They said he belonged to a queen of the East." The world pitched under my feet. A child, another child, and now Herod's madness would fall on them as well. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. Fever burned behind my eyes. I felt hollow, carved out. "Take this," I said at last, shoving the linen-wrapped sword into the taxiarchos' hands. Ride to Herod, place it at his feet. The Taxiarchos blinked. What message, Kyrios? I looked down at the dead mother, her face oddly peaceful now, emptied of struggle. Tell him, my voice quavered. I forced the words out. Tell him the stones of this place will cry against him. Tell him the sinews of this land itself will groan at night for what he has done here, and the voices of these innocents. I stared at the pyre ash drifting down the courtyard. Will never be silenced, not by fire, not by gold, not by decree. The Taxiarchos swallowed. How can I tell him this? He asked, his eyes darting left and right. He will have my head. Tell him I commanded you to say this from me word for word. And if he asks for you, I unclasped the iron gorget hanging from my neck. This was the insignia of Herod's strategos. I placed it atop the rap sword. Give him this also. A long breath left me, like a man stepping out of his own grave. Tell him Brigomarus of Ancyra is his executioner no more. The Taxiarchos' mouth opened and closed again. Kyrios, what of the caravan? The child in it could be worth a king's ransom. At that, something broke inside me. I stepped close, gripping his shoulder. Is that all you see? Gold? My voice rose, rough as torn metal. You stand on a field of murdered children. Look around you. How much coin will buy back their breath? He flinched. The soldiers behind him shifted uneasily. It is your choice now, I said. Will you swim in the blood of innocence without end? I cannot stop you, but I will not bathe in it any longer. I stripped off my armor piece by piece, cuirass, greaves, bracers, until only my travel cloak and tunic remained. My sword belt I dropped into the dirt. As for myself, I murmured almost to the wind, I will kill no more. I am dead. Let the dead join the dead. The Taxiarchos whispered, Where will you go? I mounted my horse. No saddle, no weapons, no standard. Into the desert, where nothing grows, where a man may end as quietly as he began. Let the desert swallow my crime. And before anyone could stop me, I spurred my horse and galloped away, leaving them all dumbfounded. No one stopped me. I rode without water, without rest, without thought. Fields gave way to pastures, and pastures to the cracked skin of the Judean wilderness. The sun swelled overhead like a god bursting with wrath. The horse's breath grew ragged beneath me, foam streaking his neck. By nightfall, the moon rose red, blood red, as though the heavens themselves had dipped its face into Bethlehem's grave. The moon rose high, my horse faltered, his legs trembled. I slid down and pressed my forehead to his. Go, live, be free. But he only sagged, exhausted. I cut loose his hobbles. Find the wind, I whispered. He limped into the dark. I did not watch him go. I walked on. Hours blurred. Dawn broke. The sun carved my shadow into the dust. My lips split. My mind unraveled like a rope frayed by too many battles. Somewhere in the blazing afternoon I fell. The world spun around me in molten halos. Where I woke, a tongue of pain licked my ankle. I looked down too slowly to see a viper coiled beneath a brittle thorn bush, its fangs buried deep into my ankle. It slid away. Poison spread like wildfire up my leg. A just end for butcher, I thought. I crawled a little, then lay still. Sand shifted. Time stood still. A mist like a veil obscured my vision. My name, my true name, not strategos, seemed to echo in the silence, though no lips had spoken it. I do not know how long I lay there, drifting in and out of oblivion. I sensed movement nearby. I opened my eyes. The world shimmered with heat, with light, with the fraying edges of dying consciousness. At first, I thought the figure approaching was a mirage, a trick of a fevered mind. But the nearer he came, the clearer he grew. A man, tall, hooded, and robed in gray, a staff in his hand. His stride was unhurried, as though the desert offered him cool stone beneath his feet, rather than scorching earth. I tried to lift my head. Who are you? Traveler or ghost? The figure knelt beside me. His eyes were like still water, gray, deep, calm, reflecting every storm, yet troubled by none. I have been called many things, he said. His voice was soft, almost musical. Today, I am the one who found you. My breath rattled. Let me die. I deserve no rescue. He tilted his head. You speak of what you deserve. Tell me instead what you have done. And suddenly, the dam within me burst. I killed them, my voice cracked. Children, mothers, all by command of a king whose soul stinks of rot and decay. I, Brigomarus of Ancyra, gladiator, mercenary, butcher, I obeyed. I murdered them all. The stranger did not flinch. The sun pulsed overhead. My vision swam. I saw their faces, I whispered, and something in me broke. I am no man now, only ruin, only the echo of my own crimes. Leave me here to die. The stranger touched the dust near my hand with gentle fingers. You are not yet dead, he said quietly, and where there is breath, there is turning. I laughed, a cracked, awful sound. Turning toward what? No god would have me. The stranger's gaze rested on me with a sorrow as ancient as the first dawn. There is one, he said, who sees beyond your violence. One who weighs not your past only, but your longing to be healed. My eyelids sank. Darkness curled around the edges. Who are you? A faint smile touched his lips. I am Raphael, he said, servant of the Most High, healer of men. The name struck me like cold water. And I have come, he whispered, placing a hand upon my fevered brow, to lead you out of death. The world dissolved into heat and swirling gold. Raphael's hand rested lightly upon my brow, but the moment his skin met mine, a shock went through me, not cold, not warm, but true, as though every lie I'd ever told myself simply stopped. Sleep now, he murmured. I cannot, I rasped. If I sleep, I will not rise. His eyes shone like the heart of a candle. There are worse things than death, Brigomarus, but none so final as refusing mercy. I tried to laugh, but it came out as a choking cough. Mercy? For me? For all, he said. Even for the butcher whose hands have finally learned to tremble. My vision broke like shattered glass. Then the fever took me. The venom spread up my leg in burning pulses, each one like a smith's hammer against bone. I was distantly aware of Raphael lifting me, effortlessly, impossibly, and carrying me to the thin shadow beneath the thorn tree. The desert wind hissed over the sands like a whispering crowd. I drifted. Sometimes I felt the coolness of water against my lips. Sometimes the rasp of cloth as Raphael wrapped my swollen ankle in damp earth. Sometimes his voice, low and patient, speaking as though to a dying child. You have run from death all your life, Brigomarus. First in the arena, then in the camps of kings. But it finds you now, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. I groaned. I don't want its lessons. No man does, he replied softly, but the world is changed by those who survive them. The fever surged, twisting my thoughts into serpents. I saw Bethlehem's courtyard, the screaming mothers, the children's small hands reaching. Only now I was among them, trying to pull the sword from my own fist, but it would not let go. Blood poured from the blade like water from a well. I cried out and thrashed. Raphael's hand steadied me. Be at peace, he whispered. How? I gasped. How can I be at peace with their voices in my skull? He answered not immediately. At last he said, by learning to listen. Sometime in the deep night, when the moon rose high and silver, I woke again. The fever had ebbed slightly. The venom still gnawed, but weaker. Raphael sat beside me, his staff planted in the sand, his gray cloak unmoved by the wind. You still live, he said. Unfortunately, I muttered. He smiled gently. Life is never fortunate, only misused. I turned my face away. Why waste words on me? I have slain mothers along with their children they bore. I have burned lives to ash. A man like me should be left for the vultures. Raphael's gaze seemed to pierce the dark. You did not come into this world with blood on your hands, he said. Tell me how you became the man you think yourself to be. At first, I resisted. Old pride, old shame, but the fever had stripped me of pretense. I could not hold myself upright, let alone my secrets. I was born into chains, I whispered, sold into slavery by my father, taken as a boy from Ancyra, sold into the arena. I learned early that to hesitate was to die, to show mercy was to invite death. I survived, but barely. Rome found a killer who could be shaped. And so you shaped yourself after their expectation, Raphael said. Yes, my voice cracked, and became a weapon for any lord rich enough to buy my loyalty. He nodded slowly. And yet you broke? Too late, I spat. Too late for the children. Raphael placed his hands over mine. I felt warmth, steady and grounded, like the heat of a hearthstone. Brigomarus, he said, you cannot return them to life, but you can choose what kind of man walks the rest of your days. A sword becomes peace when laid down. A butcher becomes a healer when he offers his own wound as balm. I clutched my teeth. I don't know how to live without killing. Raphael's eyes gleamed like dawn, seen through tears. Then we begin with learning how to live. The rest will follow. Just before sunrise, the fever broke. Not all at once, but in a slow easing, like iron softening in a forge. Sweat cooled on my skin. My breath steadied. The swelling in my legs subsided, as though an unseen hand pressed out the poison. I turned to Raphael. What are you? I whispered. Truly. He looked toward the east, where a faint ribbon of gold marked the coming dawn. One who walks where he is sent, he said. One who gathers what has been scattered. One who binds wounds of flesh and of spirit. Are you sent to punish me? No, he said, and the word rang with impossible tenderness, but perhaps to show you the road where punishment ends and restoration begins. I closed my eyes. The desert wind brushed my face like a mother's hand. And what road is that? Raphael rose, offering me his hand. The one you have walked all night, he said, away from Herod's shadow, into the wilderness where souls are remade. I swallowed hard. Will I survive this? He smiled, soft, mysterious. That depends on whether you wish to. I took his hand. For the first time in my life, I chose to rise not as a soldier, but a man speaking rebirth. Raphael led me a short distance until we reached the rise of a broken stone overlooking a dry wadi. We did not speak for a time. The world itself seemed to breathe in slow, measured rhythm, as if hesitant to awaken after the night's horrors. At last I asked him, "Where are we going?" Raphael's staff tapped gently against the rock. "Toward those who carry the light." "The light? Light?" My voice cracked. I half laughed. "I am a man of blood. What have I to do with light?" He turned his gaze upon me, penetrating, unfathomable. "You forget," he said, "that light needs no one worthy of it, only willing to follow." I had no answer. We crossed the ridge and descended into the wadi. My legs still ached, but the poison no longer burned. With each step, something strange happened. The weight of my armor, I thought long discarded, seemed to fall away from my shoulders. I walked as a man not accustomed to freedom, unsure whether to flee or kneel. An hour passed. Then Raphael halted and raised his hand. "Listen." I heard it faintly. The braying of camels, the creak of wagon wheels, the rustle of tent canvas hastily bundled, and beneath it voices, softer than soldiers' cries, warmer, human. I frowned. "A caravan?" Raphael nodded. "Not merely a caravan, the caravan. The bearers of the stars of fire." A strange, unbidden fear gripped me. "Raphael, if they know who I am, what I've done, they will kill me." "They will not," he said simply. "How can you know that?" He touched my arm. "Because mercy is stronger than hate, and they walk in mercy's light." He stopped and turned to me. "Walk a little further now. You will come upon their camp. There you will find the child your dark overlord sought with his protectors. Ask them for forgiveness." Then he was gone. I found myself standing at dawn, facing the west, the cooling wind caressing my face. The caravan was camped in the distance. I was alive. Was this all a dream? Was my encounter with this Raphael a fevered delusion, a product of snake's venom? But I knew instantly that it was real, though he had disappeared. Sophia. Our caravan traveled all day. Hamrath, the caravan master, rode at the rear of our column, which was stretched out a great distance. He cast many an anxious backward glance. By midday, we halted on a ridge. Melchior, Gondophares, Balthazar, Adam, and I joined Hamrath as he peered into the distance whence we had come, hand over his eyes, squinting, eyes straining to peer into the shimmering air. "What do you see, my friend?" said Balthazar. "We're being followed, my lord. I discern a column of dust along that road. They're gaining on us, slowly." "How long do we have?" asked Adam. "A day, maybe less." "How many of them do you perceive?" asked Balthazar. "Maybe 2 turmei of cavalry, 100 or so riders. Without our Scythian guard, they would overwhelm us. We have scarcely more than a dozen armed servants with us," said Hamrath. "My lords," said Gondophares, "the time has come for us to divide this company. We should split into 3 groups. I and my servants will go with Loukia, her mother, and the infant Scythian prince. Balthazar, you take your servants and go a different route, headed south into the desert. Melchior, take your servants and go north toward the sea. This may confuse our pursuers, or at least divide them into a manageable number for us to deal with." "Herod's writ does not run forever in this land," said Balthazar. "Do each of you travel so as to confuse our pursuers, and then, when we have passed the borders of Herod's lands, let us rendezvous on the sea, just past Ashkelon. There you will find a grove of balsam. We will meet there in 3 days' time." Adam spoke. "Sophia and I will stay with Loukia and the child. We should discard our robes and disguise ourselves as simple travelers. We will take no gold or silver with us, and no trade goods that could tempt those soldiers or their commander." There was general agreement with this plan, and the company divided itself into 3 parts. All the wealth of the trade goods left with Balthazar, Hamrath, and his servants. the frankincense and myrrh left with Melchior and his servants. We bade each other goodbye and vowed to reunite in a fortnight beyond Ashkelon, over the border of Herod's lands. Our little group now composed of Adam, Loukia and her mother, myself, and Gondophares. We discarded anything of value, including silks and robes, and donned the simple cream-colored linen robes of the desert, with veils hiding our faces. Gondophares hid his armor under these flowing robes, along with his great parasha, or battle axe, and a talwan, a long curved saber. He mounted one of the Arabian horses the Nabateans had given us. We headed our small group, no more than a dozen, unhindered by bulky trade goods and the weight of gold and silver, into the desert. We watched anxiously as our companions departed, wondering if we would ever see them again. As their caravans faded into the distance in opposite directions, we resolved to depart from the main roads and go overland, through arid scrubland desert, unsure of the way to the rendezvous. Adam scanned the skies as we went. His eyes found what he was searching for high in the sky, where an eagle circled, flying around our group several times. It dove at great speed to flash just above our heads, screaming a familiar cry as she turned round to pass over us again. Adam shouted with joy as he pointed to the great bird. "Zephira, we are not lost. Follow her." And so we did. It was not long before we saw Targetus galloping towards us at speed, long hair flowing behind him. He slowed and pulled up in front of us, dismounting in one smooth motion. He ran to Adam and I and embraced us with joy. Adam seized Targetus by the shoulders and held him out at arm's length, grinning and gazing into his eyes. My boy, where have you been? What have you done? What adventures carried you so far away? Have you any tales to tell us?" Loukia came running and swept into Targetus's embrace, laughing and eyes filled with joyful tears. He swung her round and round. "I knew you would come back," she cried. "My mother, a miracle. You must hear it all." "Yes, Cardiamu, my love," laughed Targetus. "I saw that as well." He turned to face Adam. "Kyrios, you have many questions and I have many answers, but no time to tell them now. I was with you in Bethlehem, in the cave, with the infant and the mother, and saw all through the eyes of Sophia. Though I could not be there, you know I sent her with my gift. I saw the vision as you all did, and heard what happened. I saw heaven touch earth, and the sky bow before the light. Sophia gave us hope and faith that you were near. For that we thank the Most High," said Adam. "But there's no time now, my son, to talk of these things. We are pursued and must keep going. Fear not. The queen of the Scythians is near with her horse archers. They should be here before nightfall," said Targetus. "But Herod's soldiers have divided into 3 parts. Still, about 30 of the Gallic Guard cavalry are on our trail, but their commander, Brigomarus, is not with him. Their captain is intent on overtaking you. You cannot outrun them. We must find a place to hide and await nightfall and the Scythians." We followed Targetus off the faint caravan path, down into a shallow basin of thorn bush and dried grasses. The sun hung low, its molten light rippling through the shimmering air. Above us, Sophia circled, her cry sharp and urgent. "Here," Targetus said, pointing toward a cluster of wind-carved boulders half buried in the sand. We can lie low until nightfall. Gondophares dismounted before he even finished speaking, scanning the horizon. Their dust trail is too close. They ride hard. They know we are here. Adam drew his robe tighter around him, his face pale beneath the linen veil. Tonight, we may be safe, but we must live until then. Loukia clutched the infant prince to her chest. Calliope tightened her arms around them both, her silent strength radiating like a shield. Hamrath knelt and pressed his ear to the earth. "Hooves," he whispered. "Close." Targetus swore softly. "They have cut across the ridge. They are nearly upon us." We ducked behind the stone outcrop, our breaths shallow as the desert fell into an anxious stillness. Then the ground trembled. A sound like rolling thunder swept over the basin. A set of 30 iron-shod hooves pounding in unison. They appeared over the ridge as a dark line, helms catching firelight, cloaks of crimson and black snapping in the hot wind, spears bristling like a field of iron reeds. The pennant of Herod snapped overhead, bearing the golden eagle and black thunderbolt. At their head rode the Taxiarchos, Brigomarus' former second-in-command. His face was flushed with heat and triumph, his eyes scanning the slopes with a predator's hunger. "Van out!" he shouted. "They're close. The shepherd's trail ends here." Soldiers split into two sweeping formations, combing the terrain. Gondophares drew his veil tighter, folding himself into a shadow. Adam knelt beside Loukia, steadying her trembling hand. He felt his fingers twitch toward the hilt of a sword he no longer carried. The Taxiarchos dismounted and strode forward, boots grinding into the sand. "Light the brush," he shouted. Torches swung down. Flames touched the brittle shrubs. A wall of smoke rose instantly. "They mean to smoke us out," Gondophares hissed. Adam put a hand upon his arm. "Stay still. Wait. Not yet." But the flames grew, rushing along the slope, their heat tightening the air. A soldier called, "Sir, tracks descending into the basin." Now the Taxiarchos had snapped toward him. His voice cracked like a whip. "Down there, now!" The cavalry thundered toward us. We had seconds. Zephyrus screamed overhead once, twice, 3 times, piercing and furious. Targetus rose to a crouch. "They found us. Prepare yourselves." He reached inside his tunic and pulled out a sling, uncoiling it, and placed a lead bullet into its patch, making ready to unleash it. The first soldiers reached the foot of the basin. Their horses snorted at the smell of smoke. "There!" one shouted. "Shapes behind the rocks." The Taxiarchos spurred forward, drawing his spatha. "In Herod's name, come out." Adam stepped forward before anyone could move. He rose tall and deliberate, his veil falling back from his face. His hands were open, empty, raised. "Stop," he said with a calm so sudden and profound that even the flames seemed to hesitate. "We are unarmed travelers. We hold nothing of value." The Taxiarchos sneered. "You hold a child your betters want." Loukia gasped. Calliope clutched the infant tighter. Gondophares stiffened behind his robe, hand on his great battle axe, ready to strike. But Adam lifted his hand slightly, warning him. The taxiarchos dismounted, stepping closer. "Pull back your veils." No one moved. I said, then his eye caught the sight of Adam's face, and a sneering smile of recognition came to his. A soldier pointed. You are the physician. I saw you at the palace, selling the king your wares and lies." Adam did not flinch. "I lied to no one, but Herod lies to himself." The taxiarchos' face contorted. "Seize him." 2 soldiers advanced. I stepped forward before I realized what I was doing. "No!" Targetus cried, rising with me. A spear tip touched his chest instantly. Another soldier shoved me aside. The taxiarchos stepped so close to Adam that their foreheads nearly touched. "The king wants the child," he snarled, "and the physician who misled him. You will both answer for it. I will have the reward doubled." He raised a hand to give the order, but then a sudden, sharp cry, a command, split the air. Not Sapphira, but a man. A soldier's mount bucked violently, nearly throwing its rider. Then another and another. Sand whipped up in sudden gusts. Something or someone was running down the slope at speed. A lone figure, veiled, running. His cloak snapped like a banner caught in the storm wind. The taxiarchos spun. "Who goes there?" The running figure pulled up sharply and stood, feet apart, hands at his side, fists clenched. His hood slipped down to his shoulders, revealing a shock of long red hair tumbling down to his shoulders. His voice rang across the basin like a bronze striking marble. "Taxiarchos, stand down." The soldiers froze. I felt my heart stop. Adam's hand tightened around my forearm. It was Brigomarus of Ancyra, alive and burning with purpose, but bearing no weapon. "Taxiarchos," Brigomarus said, his voice low but caring. "Call off your men." The officer staggered back as if struck. "Kyrios? We thought you dead." "You thought wrong," said Brigomarus. "Now withdraw." The taxiarchos looked from the unarmed man before him to his own 30 horsemen and began running his own mental calculations. "You deserted," he spat. "You have abandoned your command, your oath, your king." "I have abandoned murder," Brigomarus said, "and so should you." The soldiers murmured, shifting uneasily in their saddles. The flames of their torches crackled. Sapphira circled overhead, her cry an omen. The taxiarchos shook with fury. "If you stand with these travelers, these traitors, then you will die with them." Brigomarus took one step forward. "I will kill no more," he said, "but neither will I let you shed innocent blood." The officer spat. "You cannot stop us." Brigomarus' voice softened. "I know." He looked back at Adam, at Sophia, at Loukia with her mother and the infant prince sleeping in her arms. "I know. I cannot stop you alone." Then, from the western ridge, came the long, rising war cry of the Scythians. 50 horse archers, cloaks flying like wings, crested the hill behind the Gallic cavalry, and at their head rode Axia Panopliades, queen, mother, and warrior of the steppe. The desert exploded into motion. The Scythian war cry echoed from ridge to ridge, a high, rending call that sent the Gallic horses rearing. Axia riders thundered down the slope, bows already drawn, arrows knocked, and glinting like shards in the sun. The Taxiarchos realized too late that he was surrounded. "Form ranks, shields up," he screamed, but the cavalry was panicked, horses scenting blood and smoke. Their lines broke even as they tried to form. The Taxiarchos snarled and yanked at his reins, and then he saw Loukia, the infant prince in her arms, Calliope shielding her with desperation, outstretched hands. His eyes widened with feral calculation. "You," he spat, "bring me that child." He ran forward and seized Loukia by the wrist. She cried out as she tore away from her mother. The infant wailed. "No!" I screamed, stumbling forward. Calliope, voiceless, struck at him with both hands, but he shoved her aside. She fell hard, bleeding from the temple. The Taxiarchos dragged Loukia against him, wrapping one arm around her throat. With the other he drew a dagger, short, bright, merciless. "Let the child fall," he hissed, "and I will spare you." Loukia hissed, "I never will." He raised the blade to cut her throat. But before the dagger fell, a roar thundered from behind us. "No!" Gondophares tore off his desert robe as he charged. Armor flashed beneath it, bronze, gold, and iron. In both hands he swung his great parashu, the Indian battle axe, as bright as a falling star. The Taxiarchos barely turned in time. "You again," he spat. Gondophares' first blow cracked against the officer's raised forearm guard, sending him stumbling backward and forcing him to release Loukia. She fell into my arms. I pulled her behind me. "Give me the child," Gondophares shouted. But the Taxiarchos snarled. "Take him." 3 Gallic riders leapt from their saddles and hurled themselves at Gondophares. The first struck him from behind. The second slammed into his ribs, knocking the wind from him. The third drove a spear toward his side, into his side. The axe spun from his grip. Gondophares cried out, a terrible hollow sound. Blood soaked through his robes, darkening the sand. "No!" Adam shouted, racing toward him. But the Taxiarchos, wounded but not fallen, lunged again for Loukia. She stumbled backward, clutching the infant tight against her chest. "Stop!" I cried. I threw myself between her and the lieutenant, arms out. For one heartbeat, the officer stared at me. A look of betrayal, disbelief, and hatred twisted his face. "Die, then," he roared, and he drove the dagger toward my heart. But the blade never reached me. A hand seized the officer's wrist, iron, strong, immovable. Brigomarus had reached him first. "Enough," he growled. The Taxiarchos' eyes bulged. You should be dead." "I was," Brigomarus said. "Now I am something else." He wrenched the Taxiarchos' arm backward. The officer screamed, dropping the dagger, but he lashed out with a kick, striking Brigomarus' injured leg. Brigomarus buckled, falling to one knee. The Taxiarchos regained the reins of his horse, mounted it, and drew his sword. He raised it, making to charge Brigomarus, standing calmly, waiting for the blow that would surely follow. I heard a whirling sound behind me. I turned to see Targetus just as he let go of one end of his sling, flinging the lead bullet, which crashed into the Taxiarchos' face, hitting him in the eye. Blood spurted from the wound as he fell dead before he hit the ground. Then the world erupted in arrows. Axia's riders swept into the basin like a storm of steel and wind. Arrows fell in waves, swift, precise, merciless. The Gallic soldiers dropped where they stood. Horses screamed and bolted. Axia herself rode at the front, her braided auburn hair streaming behind her, her eyes blazing like the dawn over the steppe. "Leave none alive who strike children," she cried. The Scythians split into two wings, encircling the Gallic cavalry. Hooves churned the sand into clouds. Spears flashed. Lances skewered horses and men alike. The Gallic line shattered completely. The three soldiers who had pinned Gondophares fled, but did not escape. Targetus ran after them, losing 3 more bullets from his sling in a blur. All found their mark. Gondophares collapsed fully to the ground. "Gondophares!" Loukia cried, rushing toward him with the infant still in her arms. Calliope followed, her hands trembling as she reached for him. Adam knelt at his side, pressing his hands to the wounds, whispering something I could not hear. The battle thundered on around us. Brigomarus walked over to the crumpled form of the taxiarchos. Seeing that he was dead, he hung his head and whispered, "You wanted a child," he said, "but I have found mine." He looked toward Adam, toward Sophia and Loukia, toward Gondophares lying in the bloodied sand, and they are worth more than any king's gold. Axia rode forward. Brigomarus stood and looked her in the eye. Her spear dipped. "Lackey of Herod," she said, voice ringing like cold bronze. "You have hunted mothers and children." Her spear tip touched his throat. "For that you will answer." "I am ready to answer," he said. "I deserve no mercy for what I have done. Do your worst, lady, and make an end of this body." Adam ran up and seized the point of Axia's spear and lowered it to the ground. "No, my queen, there is more to the story of this man's sins than we know. We should hear him out." He turned his eyes to the desert, where out of the darkness came the familiar gray-robed figure of Raphael. Axia jumped off her horse and bowed. "The torchbearer!" she cried. The Scythians swept around the basin once more, scattering the surviving Gallic cavalry into the desert. Few escaped. Those who did fled north, broken and terrified. At last, the thunder of hooves quieted, the smoke lifted, the sun dipped lower, staining everything in red and gold. Axia and Adam rushed to Gondophares. Raphael followed. Adam knelt over him, hands crimson. I held Loukia, who trembled violently, but did not let go of the infant prince. Axia came to her and wrapped her arms around her, touching her forehead to Loukia's. "Fair princess, little dove of courage, you have saved our hopes and dreams. We are in your debt forever," she whispered through tears. Brigomarus stood beside them, chest heaving, one hand pressed to the leg where the dagger had nearly struck. Axia left Loukia to me and knelt beside Gondophares. "Is he?" she asked. Adam looked up, grief and determination mingling in his eyes. "He lives, but only just." Axia closed her eyes in relief. "We will save him," she said, "if heaven does not forsake us." Raphael touched her arm. "Heaven has not forsaken you," he said. His voice was full of peace and love. Music for Chapter 18, Heaven Remembers, words by Raymond Collotti, music by Marika AI. From ED Records, A New Quest, Myth, Iron Dust, and Battlefield. From Epidemic Sound, Consumed by Darkness by Christopher Mo Ditlevson, Damien's Dream by Dragon Tamer, Edge of Light by Jacob Ibon, Crypta by Joe Wandrini, A Hero Will Know by Bonnie Grace, Godsend by Johannes Bornloff, Forging an Empire by Christopher Mo Ditlevson, The Odyssey Ahead by Dream Cave, Beat to Quarters by Bonnie Grace, Last Hero Standing by Dream Cave, Choirs of War by Dream Cave, For Queen and Country by Bonnie Grace. Archangel Chronicles 2, Chapter 18. Flight. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved.